Welcome to Past Historical Events. Today we're diving into the extraordinary life of Deng Xiaoping, the man who transformed China from a struggling, isolated nation into a global economic powerhouse. Often called the architect of modern China, Deng's story is one of resilience, pragmatism, and bold decisions, some celebrated, others deeply controversial. From his humble beginnings to his revolutionary reforms and the shadow of Tiananmen Square, we'll cover every minor detail of his journey. So, grab a seat and let's explore the life and legacy of Deng Xiaoping. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more deep dives into history. Deng Xiaoping was born on August 22, 1904, in Guang'an, a rural county in Sichuan province, China. Originally named Deng Xiaoping, he grew up in a modest landowning family. His father, Deng Wenming, was a local farmer and minor official, while his mother managed the household. Young Deng showed promise early on, excelling in a traditional Chinese education steeped in Confucian classics. But the China of his childhood was chaotic. Warlords, foreign invasions, and the collapse of the Qing dynasty in 1911 left the nation fractured. At age 16, Deng's life took a dramatic turn. In 1920, he joined a work-study program, boarding a ship to France with hundreds of other Chinese students, dreaming of modern ideas and a stronger China. In Paris, he worked in factories, think grueling shifts at Renault plants, earning pennies to survive. But it was here, amid Europe's political ferment, that Deng discovered Marxism. By 1922, he joined the Chinese Communist Youth League and soon after, the Communist Party of China, or CPC. This was the spark of a lifelong commitment to revolution. Deng's time in France wasn't easy. Poverty, homesickness, and hard labor defined his days. He earned the nickname Doctor of Duplication for operating a mimeograph machine to print communist leaflets. By 1926, facing deportation risks, he fled to Moscow, studying at the Communist University of the Toilers of the East. There, he honed his revolutionary ideals alongside future leaders. In 1927, he returned to China, ready to fight for a new future. Rise in the communist ranks. Back in China, Deng threw himself into the CPC's struggle against warlords and the ruling nationalist party, the Kuomintang. He worked as a political organizer in Guangxi, mastering guerrilla tactics and grassroots mobilization. Then came the Long March, 1934 to 1935, a brutal 6,000-mile retreat as the communists fled the nationalists. Deng, in his early 30s, served as a political commissar, boosting morale and discipline among Mao Zedong's Red Army. Picture this: crossing snowy mountains, swamps, and rivers, with thousands dying. Yet Deng survived, cementing his loyalty and reputation. After Japan invaded China in 1937, Deng became a key figure in the anti-Japanese resistance, coordinating guerrilla campaigns in the north. By 1945, when Japan surrendered, he'd risen to a senior role in the CPC. When the Chinese Civil War reignited, Deng led military and political efforts, helping the communists triumph in 1949. That year, Mao Zedong proclaimed the People's Republic of China, and Deng, now 45, took on key posts, vice premier, finance roles, and more, shaping the new nation's early years. Purges and perseverance. But Deng's path wasn't smooth. In the 1950s, he backed Mao's early policies, like land reform, but clashed over ideology. Deng was a pragmatist, focused on results, not dogma. This put him at odds with Mao's radical vision. During the Great Leap Forward, 1958 to 1962, Mao's push for rapid collectivization led to famine and millions of deaths. Deng quietly criticized the chaos, favoring practical fixes. This earned him enemies. Then came the Cultural Revolution, 1966 to 1976. Mao unleashed this chaotic campaign to purge capitalist roaders, and Deng was a prime target. In 1966, he was branded a traitor, stripped of posts, and humiliated. Red Guards, radical students, paraded him in a dunce cap, forcing him to confess crimes. In 1969, he was exiled to rural Jiangxi, working in a tractor factory with his family under guard. His son, Deng Pufang, was attacked by Red Guards, fell from a window, and was paralyzed. A personal tragedy Deng never forgot. Yet, Deng endured. After Mao's death in 1976, the political tide shifted. Moderate allies, like Zhou Enlai's supporters, brought him back. By 1977, Deng was rehabilitated, vice premier again, and a rising star. Behind the scenes, he outmaneuvered Mao's successor, Hua Guofeng, and by December 1978, at the third plenum of the 11th Central Committee, Deng emerged as China's paramount leader, without ever holding the top titles like president or premier. His power came from influence, the military, and sheer will. Deng Xiaoping's legacy hinges on one bold move, the Reform and Opening Up policy, launched in 1978. China was reeling. Poverty, isolation, and a rigid state-run economy left it decades behind the world. Deng, now in his 70s, had a vision. Socialism with Chinese characteristics. His famous line, "It doesn't matter if a cat is black or white, as long as it catches mice." Results, not ideology, drove him. First, he tackled agriculture. In 1978, he quietly supported the household responsibility system. Farmers in places like Xiaogang village had secretly divided communal land, boosting output. Deng made it official. Families could farm plots, keep surplus, and sell it. Grain production soared, and rural poverty plunged. By the 1980s, millions were better fed, with cash in their pockets. Next, industry. Deng set up special economic zones, SEZs, in places like Shenzhen, a sleepy fishing village in 1979. By offering tax breaks and freedom to foreign firms, he drew investment from Hong Kong, Japan, and the West. Factories sprouted, exports boomed. Shenzhen became a metropolis almost overnight. He loosened state control, letting private businesses bloom. Street vendors, small factories, even millionaires emerged. Deng also modernized science and education. He sent students abroad, thousands to the US and Europe, reversing Mao's anti-intellectual stance. He pushed the four modernizations: agriculture, industry, defense, and technology. By the 1990s, China's GDP was growing at nearly 10% a year, lifting hundreds of millions out of poverty. A bicycle nation was buying cars, building skyscrapers, and joining the world stage. Deng knew China couldn't thrive alone. In foreign policy, he broke from Mao's isolation. In 1979, he visited the United States, shaking hands with President Jimmy Carter, even donning a cowboy hat in Texas. That year, full diplomatic ties with the US were forged, a Cold War game changer. Trade surged, American firms like Coca-Cola and Boeing arrived. Deng also mended ties with Japan, signing a peace treaty in 1978, and courted Europe for tech and investment. His mantra, hide your strength, bide your time, keep a low profile, focus on growth. He negotiated Hong Kong's return from Britain, crafting the one country, two systems model for 1997. Deng's diplomacy turned China from a pariah to a player, setting the stage for its global rise. But Deng's legacy isn't all triumph. In 1989, pro-democracy protests erupted. Students, workers, and intellectuals filled Beijing's Tiananmen Square, demanding free speech, press, and an end to corruption. Inspired by reforms, they wanted political change. Deng saw this as a threat to stability and the CPC's grip. After weeks of standoff, Deng, as head of the military, ordered a crackdown. On June 3rd and 4th, 1989, troops and tanks rolled in. Hundreds, maybe thousands died. The exact toll remains secret. The image of a lone man facing a tank became a global symbol of courage and repression. Deng defended it, saying chaos would have derailed China's progress. To supporters, he saved the nation. To critics, he stained his legacy. Human rights groups still condemn the violence, and discussion remains censored in China. Deng stepped back in the early 1990s, retiring from top posts by 1989, but guiding China from behind. In 1992, at 87, he made his southern tour, visiting SEZs to push reforms harder, cementing his vision against conservative pushback. He died on February 19, 1997, at 92, from Parkinson's and lung issues. Today, Deng's legacy towers. He lifted over 800 million from poverty, turned China into the world's factory, and laid tracks for its superpower status. Skyscrapers, high-speed rails, and global trade, that's Deng's fingerprint. But critics point to authoritarianism, no democracy, censored speech, and Tiananmen's shadow. Deng Xiaoping was no ideologue. A short man, barely 5 feet tall, with a giant impact, he blended socialism and markets, pragmatism and power. Love him or not, modern China is his creation. What do you think of Deng Xiaoping? A visionary who built modern China, or a leader with a complex, controversial legacy? Drop your thoughts below. If you enjoyed this deep dive, like, subscribe, and share. Let's keep exploring history together. See you next time on Past Historical Events.